Hello, I'm Lisa Harrison, and today is Monday, the 4th of June 2012. Now, for me personally, a lot of my focus of late has been on solutions. Looking for tools, resources, technologies that can take us from the current fear-based paradigm that we're living in into the new heart-based paradigm that we are in the process of creating. What tools, what resources, what technologies are out there already available to us to help us make that transition? Now, the transition is happening anyway. You know, the energies from the celestial and galactic and earthly energies are sort of carrying us along to that new paradigm, but we can certainly make the process a lot easier for ourselves by utilizing what's available. And today, excuse me, today I want to share with you a tool that I believe can really help in taking us from this current paradigm to the next. And to that effect, I'd like to introduce Len Histon.
Yeah, hi Lisa, how you going?
I'm really, really good, and I'm really looking forward to talking to you about this because your name and your game came up in conversation with David Yerth and Trevor Osborne that we had recently, a sort of roundtable discussion. And you were mentioned, and I was intrigued by what you've created, how you created it, and why you've created it, and also coming from a place of wanting to assist you and helping get that out into the world. So can we start by giving the background on how you came up with this? It is a game.
It is.
It's
Yep.
which is not to diminish its importance in any way. But if you could just explain to people how you came up with this and why.
Okay. Well, to be honest with you, 21 years ago, I was trying to justify the use of a games room in a home that my wife and I at the time were in the process of planning. And I remember being busy. I was in the retail business. I had a couple of retail stores. And I just looked over my wife's shoulder and looked at the plans, and I said, well, where's the games room? And she said, games room? For what? What do you want to do with it? I said, play games. And she said, what games? And honestly, I couldn't think of a game that you would actually play in a games room. And so I felt pretty determined that I wanted a games room in the house, even though I didn't know why. A few days later, a few mornings later, I had a dream. And in a dream, I saw this. That's what was happening. And as I saw it, the spinning bottle mounted on a board.
I remember playing something like that in high school.
Yeah, well, that's another version of it, yeah. A little fun there as well. But anyway, I saw this, and I really thought, what a great idea. You know, get it together, play it with the kids, and have some fun. And geez, I can make some good money out of this as well. And so anyway, I went on for a period of time, and I finally ended up with this great idea, thinking I was going to do something with it, but it sat for 4 years, and I had this great idea and didn't do anything. And it wasn't until I moved into a Subway store, one of the first in Australia. There was 14 of the first. I was number 8, I think it was, and no, number 7, I think. Of the 14 first stores, I think it was 8 of us that went into bankruptcy, and it was a pretty difficult time. And at that same time, the marriage failed for a number of reasons. I now understand it was basically, I can put it down to my inability to effectively communicate. But at that time, I didn't know that. And so I found that the relationship with my children, which I thought was good, was almost non-existent. It was there. I was there as a father, but that was just, it was like a figurehead. I was there, but I wasn't there in spirit. And I saw the change in their behaviours quite significantly, and I searched for different ways to connect with them. I felt like a failed father. There were some things that I wanted to say to them, but they weren't listening to me. And so one day I thought I'd be clever. And I would use this idea I had of this, and I would put 32 games. I knew there was a number of games and numbers around the outside of the board, and each one of the numbers represented a game or an activity. And I thought that I would throw all the things that I wanted to say to my children, feeling like a failed father, into the game. So anyway, we started to play, and I didn't really understand. I knew what activities to put in here. I either found them through games books or understanding old games, or in the process of doing this, I had a number of other dreams which inspired me to put this activity in, put this in and put that in. And when it came to actually creating it, I knew exactly what to do. At that time, I didn't know how I knew, but I knew. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, almost in a state of ignorance, one day I threw the game together and started playing it with my children. And I had a girlfriend at the time. We're still close friends, and she had 2 children there, and we all played it. And after we finished playing, I said to them, who wants an ice cream? And they all said, yeah. And I said, well, you guys sit at the back, I'll get it all. And I prepared the ice creams, and I took them outside, and for the first time, I saw them sitting in a little ball very close together. And I just remember just absorbing that just for a second, because I hadn't witnessed that before. And I didn't realize that every time we played afterwards, the same thing happened. I began to realize later that happened. And then we played regularly. We played sometimes 2 or 3 times on the weekend.
Can I ask what the age groups were, what the age range was of these kids?
The youngest one was 4, 4 up to 10 at that stage. And the 4-year-old, he's now 6.
He's now how old, sorry?
He's 26 now, just turned 26. He had a little bit of a challenge learning some of the activities, but we found that when we slowed down for him to give him a chance to do it, it was only a very, very short time that we had to slow down, because quickly, we had to speed up to catch up to him once he understood what he had to do. So anyway, we all found that each of the games, as we relaxed into the game, they became a little bit more competitive. We started playing it with friends, and had some very, very special moments with that. And I was like a little child that had found this new toy. I kind of understood how to play it, or to play with it, but I didn't really understand, even though I was marveling at all the great things that were happening. Anyway, playing it socially, I think we had a few teachers come along, and one teacher said, oh, can you bring it into the class? I thought, fair enough. So went and played it in the class. The change in the behaviour that I witnessed in my children, in how they articulated themselves, the 4-year-old, and I know he won't mind me saying this because it's true, I would pick him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday. By 5 o'clock, he's having a tantrum. I had no idea on how to calm that. I tried to do it like the bossy father, but it didn't work. The harder I tried, the more stubborn he became. Mm-hmm. Within 2 weeks of us playing, those tantrums stopped completely. When I could pick up my children in the car, I came from a place called Queen's Park in Perth. It was a state housing area. I wagged school as often as I could. I didn't really have any formal education. I couldn't articulate myself like I can now. And so I kind of struggled. You could say struggled. I thought things were fine, but they weren't. Now I know they weren't. He, and not only he, I would pick them up, when I picked them up, after the marriage broke down, I know this sounds a bit crude, but I could actually smell them. It's like their hair was becoming scruffy, their attitude was changing. But then, as we're playing, almost immediately, within those couple of weeks where the tantrums stopped, also they became clean again. Their hair was right, their attitudes changed. I made, and because of what came from this game, I made my house and my presence a no put-down zone. It was a bit of a challenge to get them to stop putting each other down and themselves down. But once they did it, they now that quality they still retain today.
That's
Right?
beautiful.
And it is beautiful. Now, when I went into the classrooms, we played in exactly the same way. Me not really understanding, but getting a big thrill out of seeing these kids awaken and connect and become more productive. And I found that it was quite consistent everywhere I went. Now, I, once again, was like this little boy who had found this amazing toy, and each time we played it, we learned something new and exciting about ourselves. And the more we found that people were relaxed into the activity, the more they revealed about themselves. Not revealed as in, I've had this problem and I've had that problem. I'm talking about the qualities, the natural qualities that they revealed about themselves, on how they could do things better. And then we found that the play, over a period of time, moved into more of an intuitive type of play.
So this game came out of your intuition. This game came out of, it was intuitively inspired through dreams.
Through dreams, yes. And the rules came from dreams, and some of the games came from dreams as well.
And you've taken this into not only your own family, but you've taken it into other social groups, and you've extended it out amongst friends and the community socially. You've taken it into schools, and you're seeing the same consistent results no matter where you take it.
And it's a constant. It's there. You create the right environment. You create the appropriate experiences for people to enjoy in that environment, and the magic just happens. It's not just schools, and when we say schools, it's not one or two. I would have myself conducted probably maybe 100 professional development sessions with different schools. We were doing a little study with a class at Gosnells Primary School here in West Australia, and we had a school psychologist. Every now and again, first few times, kind of watched from a distance, and he came up to me and. About the third time we were playing, there's a story behind that as well, which I'd be happy to share with you, because I guess it's representative of the type of things that can happen. But he came up to me and he said, I can't remember the boy's name. He said, "Do you know that what's his name over there is he's being diagnosed with ADHD?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, he has, and he is. And when he's playing your game, he doesn't display any signs of ADHD." I said, "That's why I don't know." And that's where I got the interest of the psychologists. There were some psychologists within the education department that took it up, right? They ran programs with it, and a couple of centres began using it. Teachers had significant changes in the behaviour and the performance of their students. Who regularly used the game. But it wasn't just in schools. The same dynamics happened at the University of Western Australia. Firstly with the Faculty of Agriculture, and then with the student services. I ran a number of workshops through the Faculty of Agriculture, and some amazing things. One of the letters I received from the head of the student guild was he was talking about. When he originally booked me to come and do the programs there, he set certain objectives, so things that they'd like to see achieved. And he was hoping to have success in one or two of them, because then he would have felt quite satisfied. But he had success in all of them. And he also mentioned that he's noticed that the students are starting to take the ethos of what they picked up from the game out into the university. And he mentioned in the letter that he would like to see the ethos of the game introduced into the university. Then I found myself in institutions. There's a Longmore Juvenile Detention Centre here, and I'm only telling exactly what happened, and I'm sure that some people may be a little bit uncomfortable with this, but a teacher who was looking after the class that I was working with, she said to me, "You're only going to be here 5 times." I said, "Why 5 times?" And she said, "Because what you're doing is going to work." And they have a revolving door policy here. You help these kids, and they're not coming back. So some people are going to be out of a job. That's actually what happened, right?
Oh, I still
Yeah.
hear things that shock me every now and then. That's one of them.
Now, the psychologist came up with a very good point, though. He said, I can see what you're doing. Most of them were Aboriginal boys, young Aboriginal boys. There was a few whites, but there were mostly Caucasian, but there was mostly Aboriginal boys. He said, I can see what you're doing in the class there, and it is good what you're doing, but what you're doing is you're bringing out the soft side of them, right? And if they develop these things that you're saying that they will develop, they're going to go out into the quadrangle, into the area out there, and they're going to be eaten up by the sharks. And I got to appreciate at that particular time that there was some truth in that.
Mm.
Now, if you get into this touchy-feely stuff and all that sort of stuff, you can leave yourself open. But what I've since come to realize, it actually doesn't make you weaker. It makes you much, much stronger. As soon as you learn to use these abilities that we have inside of us, you can deal with almost any situation, right? And you're certainly not going to be intimidated by some bullies in a quadrangle.
So you've seen results from everything from 4-year-olds to academic adults working in universities and academia.
Well, further, yes, and it led to a whole range of different experiences. One time I found myself in Queensland, in Cairns. I was working with an organisation called the Wantol Bibuya Theological College, a group of wonderful people, a mixture of churches, including United, Presbyterian, Lutheran, Catholic, and I can't remember the last one, but wonderful people that were taking people, for Indigenous people from Torres Strait Islands and from far northern Queensland, from their communities, the elders and leaders, and helping them develop specific skills so that they can work on redeveloping their communities. And one thing led to another, and I ended up communicating with these people, and we arranged for them to stay at a facility and use that facility. And the night before the first conference that they had, one of the priests came to me and said that we're playing, our group's coming in tomorrow night. Would you be interested in playing the game with them, just to see how it goes? And I said, yeah, okay. So we played that night. We did have a great time. When it finished, I can't say the right thing here, but when we finished, the priest came up to me and he said, do you know why all the women kept on leaving? And I said, not really. And he said, well, they've all got weak bladders. And they were laughing so much they didn't want to wet their pants. So they made sure they stayed empty. He mentioned to me that there was a group of elders coming in the next day. I was due to fly back to Perth the next day, and I'd stay and work with them. We didn't work, we played about an hour a day. And that was an honour. It was one of the most precious times of my life. The most precious time was a connection with my children. That connection I made in that early days, I still have. It doesn't go. Once you've established it, it doesn't go. It's just amazing.
So what are you seeing as the core benefits?
The best way to talk is for me personally, and I just hope that other people can relate to it. I have learned when I have a feeling, I now understand that feeling is giving me information. It's giving me information that I am not consciously aware of. And when I learn to listen to that feeling and then understand what it's telling me and then appropriately articulate it, it helps me with negotiating skills, handling problems. It helps me in every possible way. When I find that multiple things happen, I now know from the experiences within the game how to put myself in a calm state and appropriately deal quickly with each challenge, one at a time. It seems like I'm doing them all at once, but I'm not. I'm actually doing them one at a time. I can feel things much better than I've ever been able to feel them and understand what it is I'm feeling. I've come to understand, this is me personally, I've come to understand that this body of mine is an organic computer. It is highly advanced. It is totally sensitive. And this computer provides my mind, it provides me with information. And as I learn to listen to and appropriately use that information, I become very capable. What is beautiful for me is that when I'm playing with a group of people and everybody starts to connect to this, and it's all they're doing is awakening these inner abilities. And there's a list I actually have here of these abilities, like using your intuition, listening to, understanding that much of our communication is non-verbal, and when I'm with a group of people, that we go through the experience like at a workshop. Maybe I can share an experience that we had at a recent workshop to give you an idea of how special the experience is. It was a weekend workshop. We started on a Saturday morning, and we played on a Saturday evening, and then finished at Sunday afternoon. And lots of things. During Saturday, it was just a lot of fun. We went through many of the different experiences within the game. And it was quite challenging. Challenging as in fun challenging, not as difficult. But in the morning, on the Sunday morning, we spent quite a bit of time reflecting. It was part of the activity, but it was an organised part. It wasn't organised. Everything is random within the game. By the way, I'll just quickly explain it. So you spin the bottle, whoever it lands on, say it's landing on you, become it, right? And what you say goes. So the rules are, you don't do anything you don't want to do. Anybody. If someone speaks, everyone listens. You look after each other's safety physically and emotionally at all times. Safety is number one priority. And there's no put downs even in fun. They are the simple rules. If you follow those rules, as a matter of fact, if you have those rules in any environment, you'll find that the environment changes. Anyway,
hang on, before you go on though, have you had resistance to the rules itself with kids in particular? If you've taken this into a schoolroom or a classroom of troubled kids, difficult kids, have you found that they're resistant to some of those rules, like no put downs?
Do you mind if I tell a story? I'm going to go from one story to another and get me back to the one on Saturday night about that, because that's probably more important. Well, it's not important. More important. It's the same importance. But at Gosnell's Primary School, I had a principal and a deputy principal come and do one of my workshops. I was at the Fremantle Education Centre at the time, and they came to me and they said they had this class, a very difficult class that they're struggling with. And they love the game, but they're a little bit cautious about the idea. I thought that they're a bit wary of the idea of taking it back and how the kids would deal with it. So they asked me to come and do 5 sessions at the school. So I'll never forget turning up to the school. We're outside the library, and the teacher's got a big armful of books. She is so stressed. It looked like, with respect to her, but it looked like her eyes were bulging out of her head. She was so stressed. And she didn't say, "Come on, children, inside." She said, "Get in there, you lot." Whoa. Okay, so we went inside, went into the library, and we started to play. And the play sessions go for an hour and a half if we can squeeze it. The longer the better. And when we finished, I felt like I'd been put through the ringer. And the teacher came out and she said, "They were amazing." She said, "They were so good." I thought, wow. I mean, they were throwing things around, getting upset when they were out. But one of the things you do is you sit in a circle, right, and everybody. In this class, there was 12 boys, or 11 boys that were there in their little gang. That was their little secure group. They were like a security blanket for each other. When they couldn't form the actual circle, they had to have a bubble in the circle. It took weeks to remove that bubble. And anyway, we started to play, and after about 5 sessions, I stopped. And the teacher and the deputy principal were very happy with the progress. And, one thing with the class, they have to, the students have to clear the class, put all the chairs and the tables, stack them up around the outside of the class. When you first go into a classroom to get that, ask for them to clear the class, really, it takes about 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, because they'll only move their chair and their desk. Uh, and and they argue about who goes what on all of these things. Once they've played it once, that room is cleared in about 20 seconds. They love playing it. If you give children the opportunity, once they understand what this is, they will play it every day. They completely comply to the rules, and they understand if they break the rules, there's a consequence for it. It's not bad. I mean, there are only little things that happen, but they're the rules. And I cannot recall anyone ever consciously breaking the rules. It doesn't matter what age they are or what their background is. It's something to do with an inner knowing. They know that this is right.
That's impressive.
But anyway, sorry?
That's impressive.
It is. But the things that happen in that classroom were just truly remarkable. They're changing their behaviour. You can imagine a dysfunctional class where kids are fighting each other. You've got the bullies in the class. You've got the loud ones in the class. You've got the people who are, we'll call them, have an introvert type of a nature. I feel for them just as much as I do the ones who demonstrate signs of low self-esteem, because they suffer as well. This little girl, and her name was Jade, she came up to me, and after the third time of playing, and she said, I love this game, and she said, my parents have even noticed a difference in me. And I thought, oh, that's really cool, Jade. Oh, thanks for telling me that. Week 5, she came up and she actually tugged on my trousers and she said, Len, I've actually come to like everybody in this class now. And she said, I didn't before. And I thought, wow. Anyway, after week 5, I left, and week 7, the deputy principal called me and said they're thinking of giving up the game. I said, because those boys keep on disrupting things when they play. And the deputy principal asked me, well, why do you think that is? And intuitively, I said, they have not accepted that this is a new way to play the game. There is a new way to play this game. And so I asked for the opportunity to give them free of charge for me to come to the school 4 times and play with the children. And
just
play
with
with
those,
group.
just with that group.
On the condition that 1, I can get a classroom to myself, and 2, I can tell them the truth. And so anyway, they came along and sat down and played, and I said, are you happy? Do you like playing the game? And they said, we love it. And I said, are you aware that the school is thinking about stopping playing? And they said, no, why? And I said, because of you guys. You're disrupting the play. What are we doing? And I said, every time you feel like you're out or something doesn't go your way, you still get upset. It slows down the play. You've only got an hour to play the game. You need to make the best of that hour. And I just said, but it's not your fault. And I said, it's not your fault because we haven't yet shown you that there is another way to play. I said, can you let me show you another way to play? And I'm actually talking about the game of life here. Mm-hmm. So we did 3 sessions. There was a condition that if they played up at all, they don't get a second, third chance. They're immediately sent out. There's only one I had to send out for the 3 days. And I didn't like doing that. I didn't want to do that, but I had to. But he came back. Not too. It's gone for about 15 minutes. But anyway, he didn't do it again. On the 4th day, I was afraid it wasn't going to work. Remember, I was just doing this intuitively. It wasn't done with my head. And but my head was thinking on the 4th day, and I felt ill. I really did. Too ill to go and play. So the teacher, I spoke to her on the Monday, and she said, well, because I didn't turn up, the whole class played anyway. And she said the kids were amazing. She said they really were. Anyway, they went on to play, and they played once a week. And some 3 months later, by the way, I have the details of the study. I don't completely understand it, but the deputy principal and the teacher told me that there was a study done on this particular class, and they were rated as, if not the highest, the lowest, one of the lowest in the state as far as self-esteem, attendance, participation, and all that sort of stuff, on a study that the education department was doing. And some 3 months later, I went back to the school. I was dropping off a game for another school to pick up, and I thought I'd drop into the class at lunchtime to say hi to the teacher and to the class. And as I walked in, as I was heading out towards the class, I see all these kids sitting in little groups doing stuff around the outside of the classroom. And then as I move into, they're all quiet, they're all focused. As I move into the classroom, there are other groups sitting, and they're actively doing stuff together, very quietly. And you hear giggles and stuff like that, but no loud noises. And I walked up, and the teacher's there in the classroom at lunchtime, by the way, which I just realised. It was her lunch, and she was there. And she said, "Len, we've moved to a high level of maths than I could have ever believed we could go to." She said, "For the first time ever, I've completed a health education unit, or a sex education unit, I think they call it, one of the two. And she said, I've never been able to do it before." She said, "The kids have become an absolute delight to teach."
This is the same stressed out, eyes bulging teacher that you...
Exactly the same teacher, right?
Okay.
And then the child that was diagnosed with the ADHD, he came up to me and said, "Len, you owe us a game." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You told us you were going to come 4 times, but you only came 3. So you owe us a game." I said, "Oh." I said to the teacher, "Do you want me to come back?" And she said, "Are you kidding?" So
Were they
anyway,
still playing it themselves?
yes. Oh yeah. She said it that when I did go back, she said, "They know we play on a Friday, but they ask on Monday, can we play?" They asked on Tuesday, "Can we play today?" Right? And it was like, it's a constant. And once you get into the intuitive side of the game, the kids recognize this. And I'll give you a little example of that in just a second. I'll tell you now. One of the activities is that you put on a blindfold if you're it, taken outside the classroom, you put on a blindfold. And while you're putting on the blindfold and outside the classroom, the rest of the class find a place in the class to hide. They don't really need to hide because the person's blindfolded. They just need to stand someplace. Now, when we first started playing this game, you couldn't get the kids in the classroom to shut up because they wanted to attract attention to themselves. When they walked in, then they'd be the one that catches, right? But once they learn to understand that that's not the way you play this game, what you're doing is you're putting a protective shield around yourself. You're feeling safe. You allow yourself to go very quiet. Now, when I went back that time that we played, I asked to bring a film crew with us and did all that sort of stuff. The principal at that time came up to me, both his hands, shook my hand, and said, "I want to thank you for the service that you've given to the school." There's a bit more to that in a sec. But anyway, when we started, the idea, what I asked him to do, is when he walks into that classroom, to go into the middle of the class and just stand there and wait until he felt he knew where everybody was. And then once he feels it, go up, touch them just on the shoulder, just touch it, and then take your hand off and say the very first name that comes to mind. Now, obviously, when we started that game, they couldn't do that. They had to feel and grope and all that sort of stuff. Not bad, but there was lots of giggles and everyone making noise. But that day, when we came back, this boy walked in and you could drop a pin in that room. You didn't hear a sound. He walked into the middle of the room, he stood there, you could tell in his being, his power. And he stood there. And then when he felt comfortable, because you could even see that, when he felt comfortable, he walked up and he put a hand on a person's shoulder. He didn't search around. He put a hand like that on a person's shoulder, and he said that person's name. He only do it 5 times, but he did it all 5 times. We recognize each other even when we can't see, but we don't know it.
That's so powerful.
It is, but the beauty of this game, it shows you all different types of the abilities that we possess. When you start to combine these abilities, some very, very powerful things happen.
Yeah.
What we're working to do here is to create a version of the game that people can take it home, play it at home. There'll be a DVD that comes with it. They'll show how to play it with just fun, share some fun, family time, and all that sort of stuff. Play it with meaning, and then play it at a deeper level. And if they want to do a shortcut to the deeper level, then they'll come to our workshops. But what we want to do is make the knowledge that this information that this game helps us to learn, or we have the knowledge to access, accessible to everybody.
So you're talking about our innate abilities of intuition, of insight, and including things like empathy and compassion and bringing those out.
Yes. Yes. As you awaken these abilities, everything, it just naturally will happen. We've naturally got all this. It's trapped in here. It's not actually not in here, but it's trapped within us.
Through presenting it as a game, you automatically get past so many blocks that people have.
Well, it's the fun. You learn exactly the same way a little child learns. You're not thinking, you're just doing. And it's in the doing with purpose, with intent. That's where the magic is. That's where the power is. Now, just to go, if I can continue on with the God that I'm doing too. I hope I'm not confusing you.
No, it's all good.
Two little stories going on here. First, the one at Gosnells. And at the Gosnells Primary School, we went, when I turned up that day, when they were playing, when I turned up that day, I was a few minutes late. You walk into the library, and as you walk into the library, you're seeing just a row of books. You can't see it. And as I opened the door, I didn't hear anybody. I didn't hear anything. And I walked around the bookcase. There is this perfect circle of very clean, beautiful-looking kids. And there's one spot there for me to sit. I went, and I don't know if any teacher or any parent or anyone can appreciate the significance of this. I went and I sat in that circle. I didn't say a word. And I sat there, I must have been for 60 seconds. And I enjoyed 60 seconds of absolute quiet with these children. And that was a very special 60 seconds. It still gets to me. And then I said, let's play. And we had some magical times then. And, the sad part about all this, though, is a year later, when this Jade told me about how she got to like everybody, I asked if she could see that even affects me. Just incredible. It's just a very powerful thing. That Jade, when she told me about the influence that the game was having on her and her class, I asked her to write a report on it. And a year later, they were now in grade 7. These were grade 6 class, by the way. A year later, I was at the school. I was dropping off another game, and I heard her call out my name across the quadrangle. And she came across and she said, Len, I wrote you that report, but I never knew where to send it. And I just said, Jade, you could have given it to Miss Langworthy. And anyway, and she spoke about it. She just said, I love the game and all that sort of stuff. And I just said, can you tell me what the game meant to you? And she went quiet for a second. She said, I learned to trust. And I just said, oh, how nice, how nice. And I just said, oh, well, anyway, nice to see you again, Jade. Thank you very much. I look forward to getting the report. And she just said, but I'm losing that. I said, why? And she said, because we don't play it anymore. Well, why not? She said, because we've gone up a grade, obviously, and the teacher doesn't know how to play it. I said, you guys could show with your eyes closed. Yeah, but she won't let us. That shocked me. That really did. Now, you had a class that changed so significantly. The teacher, the principal, the deputy principal moved, and I have this in writing, moved by the influence that the game had on the children. Yet no other class in the school played it. No,
Is that because none of the other teachers wanted to take it on?
because none of the other teachers were, I believe, this is my judgment, none of the other teachers felt comfortable enough to get on the same level as the children.
They saw it as relinquishing their authority over them.
Yes. One of the things that I've got to realise is that when you're playing the game, when you first start playing the game, and it's just part of the process, it happens when I'm doing workshops as well within people. The first couple of hours of exposure are great. It's a novelty. You're having fun with a great experience. And then as you move into it and you start to settle in, you think, oh, I'm learning to do things as I'm doing this, right? Then as you start to develop a few of the abilities, ego steps in. And all of a sudden you become good at everything. And you can't be told anymore. Right? This is not everybody, but this is many people. And it's not until you played a little while longer that you realise, oh, no, hang on, I don't know everything yet. I'm only just learning. Ego goes, and then it settles down. So what actually happens, this happens individually and collectively. So what actually happens is they become a little bit loud around the week 5 to week 7. But remember, the school was going to stop, but they didn't stop because all the unruly behaviour had stopped. All those kids that were always on detention were no longer on detention. And even when they were, which was rare, the teacher and the deputy principal could discuss the issue with them. Before, they couldn't discuss the issue. So what happened is that once they collectively went through that process, they all settled down. And what actually happened, the teacher had far more control over the students than she could have ever dreamed that she could have. Right? Because they took responsibility for their own education. They wanted to learn. The gap between the teacher and the student had gone. And this magic moments occur. So that actually happens every time you play, if you play it at the intuitive level. So
the $1 million question is, why isn't this in schools part of our curriculum? Why isn't it available for people to buy and play this thing at home? What happened?
first question, why isn't it part of the curriculum? We had an interesting thing here in Western Australia where the new curriculum framework came out some 11 years ago, I think it was. And at the back of the curriculum framework were 32 values. And when I looked at those values, I thought, fantastic. Basically, every value in here can be easily learned through playing the game. And I thought that is going to be one of the very first things that they're going to embrace. I was already doing workshops on that with schools with great success. So I thought it was time to go. Take off. And remember, my whole process from the time I first developed the game up until, I'm talking about quite a few years, was like a little boy who found a new toy and was quite amazed that every different place I went to, something special happened. And so I was on a path of discovery. I will say that there was an organisation here called, remember, I don't know if you ever heard the Ralph Sarich Orville engine. He developed it here in Western Australia. He made something like $350 million before he sold a motor. And they started up the Sarich Corporation, and they helped new inventions and all that along that. When I first developed the game, I took it to them, and they said, yes, we'd like to be involved, and they offered to be a partner. And this is in September. And they said that we wanted out by Christmas time. And at that stage, I was only halfway through developing the game, properly developing. And I just said, well, we do that, we're going to rush it. And finally, okay, I admit being a little bit too close as the inventor, I went to them and said, look, do it my way or don't do it. I want this done properly. In one way, I regret that, but in another way, now that I understand what it is, I understand that maybe the timing wasn't right. And well, actually, I know it wasn't right at the time. But why isn't it part of the curriculum? Is because when the new curriculum framework was announced, they also announced that they were going to introduce computers into every school. All professional development for teachers went into computers and accountability. No professional development went into helping the students develop those values. No education so me
So
as one of,
it looked good on paper,
it looked wonderful on paper.
but there was absolutely no infrastructure, nothing, no support to actually bring that into the classroom.
Not anything that worked.
Wow.
Now, I'm not aware of any new initiative that came to help them to do that. I went to the education department. I was very fortunate to get in front of our Governor General. He was the Governor General of Western Australia at the time, Michael Jeffries, Major General Michael Jeffries. Then he became the Australian Governor General. When he saw this game, we actually played it for a little while. He immediately recognised the benefits of it, and he wrote to ministers and everybody to encourage them to be involved, and which I thought was a wonderful thing. And I went to see the ministers, and they all said it was really great, but none of them did anything. However, I'll take responsibility for that because I didn't make it easy for them to do it. I didn't have a structure together for them to engage with. That's what's different now. We have a structure for people to engage with. We know how we can make a difference. And basically what we're offering now is an amazing way to relay the foundation of any environment, right? Whether it be in a classroom, a workplace, in a family, to bring balance and clarity and purpose into people's lives. And they do it all themselves just by awakening these abilities. So it's very simple. And we were going to do a large project in Queensland, and I can mention it was through a town called Yarrabah. I so regret. I don't regret, it's the way it happened, that we didn't continue with when we were playing it with the Wontok group, the bishop walked in, and with respect, I can't remember if his name was Malcolm Arthur or Arthur Malcolm. He walked in and he played for a few minutes and he said, "Those boys at Yarrabah need this." Now, I didn't know what Yarrabah was.
What is it?
It's a town. It's about 20 minutes or a half an hour drive south of Cairns. It has a population of about 3,000 people. It's right on the coast. It's in a beautiful location. And I believe that Joe Bjelke Peterson at one stage tried to sort of get them kicked out to use it as a tourist area or something. I'm not sure, but that's the story that I heard. Anyway, I found myself taking a tour of Yarrabah, and I had a very special time there when we took it to Yarrabah to introduce. I came up with this project. It's called the Cultural Olympics. How we'll take the ethos of the game and introduce it to a whole community. And my personal goal was to assist in the process of turning a welfare-dependent community into a self-sufficient community within 18 months. And I believe it could happen that quickly if we can help people awaken these abilities inside, so they take responsibility for themselves and their own happiness. So we went there one day and one evening, and we cleared the back of the church. The bishop was there, a lot of priests, a lot of elders. Would have been 40 people.
Sorry, how many? When you sit back, I lose your audio.
So there would have been about 40 people.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we played for a while, and then I explained to them what my intention was, what I'd like to do with the town, create this cultural Olympics, and that is we have a series of events like creative expression where every group, you get groups of 10 to 12 people, come up with some sort of creative expression, whether it be a song, a dance, a skit, a piece of art, anything, but something that they have to practice and work on over a period of time together. Self-expression where they have fun debating teams and then they develop their ability to articulate themselves, and then they'll also become judges of those teams, and then they'll be judged on or assessed on their ability to impartially judge. We'd set up the town as a mind obstacle course, right, where they had different challenges that they had to work out together, and all different types of fun ways for them to develop these inner abilities. And one of the components of the Olympics was for the students for each team to do a component of community service. So they had to do something that would benefit the town. So we had the intent of recording this event and then transmitting the recordings to towns throughout northern Queensland. And Aboriginal people love to watch other Aboriginal people doing stuff. And then we were going to get them competing.
Mm-hmm.
The towns competing. There's a whole series of events. And the easiest way I can say it is that some people that weren't Aboriginal saw an opportunity to have some control and some influence. And they tried to take over. And they made it difficult for me to be there. It took me a long time to understand why. I remember on that day the first day I went to Yarrabah, I ended up being taken into a house. I won't tell you too much about that, but that was a beautiful experience as well. But when I got back to the Cairns, this sister came up to me and she said, "Are you aware of the honour that you were given today?" I said, "I felt honoured." She said, "White man doesn't go into their house. You were taken straight in." And she said, and okay, this may be a little controversial, but this is what she said. She said, "You'll know when you're making progress with Aborigines because white man will get in the way."
Because what? Sorry.
White man will get in the way, and and you'll know what they're doing is racial because the things they do won't make any sense. It became so confusing that I said to these people that not only are we now not playing on the same team, I don't even believe we're playing the same sport. So I'm out. And it hurt to leave that. It hurt more than anything to leave that. So I decided to put it on a shelf because the time just couldn't have been right.
So do you think it was deliberately sabotaged?
No, I think it was more of a need for people to be in control rather than deliberate sabotage. I think that's what it was.
Does that come? Do you think maybe? I'm trying to get my head around that kind of behaviour, but that sense of superiority over the Indigenous community, not wanting that to change.
I think at the time that was the case. That's what I felt. I don't feel that that's the case now. I believe that we get far better support, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to go back and working with Indigenous people. It's very rewarding.
So as just to make the comment again that you've seen this work across age groups, you've
Yes.
also seen this work across cultural groups, whether it's Indigenous Australians, your typical Aussie, or other cultural groups as well, because we've got a huge immigrant population here, and so many people of different nationalities. We are the multicultural country, so I'm assuming you've had a chance to see how different cultures react to this as well.
I have.
So it's cross culture.
It is. I haven't found one occasion that it's crossed any cultural barriers. And when playing, obviously doing our best to be sensitive to cultural beliefs. But I haven't personally experienced it. I had the honour to go to Bali and play with a group of Indonesians from all over Indonesia. It was an environmental conference. It was up into the hills, and some German people had arranged it. And we went up to the. We started playing, and there's one of the games that's called Cat and Mouse, and where you become the cat if you're it, and you spin to choose a person to be the mouse. The German guy was the cat. Spain chose the person, the Indonesian was chosen to be the mouse. And after about 5 minutes, the German person said, "There's no way I'm going to catch him." I said, "You're right with that attitude." And I said, "The difference is, he has become the mouse. The only way that you can possibly catch him is become the cat."
Mm-hmm.
That's when the fun starts. When they engage in the process, engage in the moment, and they become the cat or become the mouse. He caught that guy in a minute or two after that, and it became fun to watch the chase. And it just allowed himself to become that cat. And unfortunately, my room was right next to the area that we played. We played for about 2.5 hours. These people stayed up all night, talking, laughing. So I didn't have any sleep. So we had a wonderful time. Yeah, and on many occasions there's been with difficulties. It's all fine. And we're all human. We're all the same. And the game actually demonstrates that. These qualities that exist, they don't just exist within me, they're in every one of us.
So you're seeing healing in relationships within the family, within work environments, within kids at school. It's healing these relationships.
Yes, when they realise what is happening. And I've been to situations where couples are obviously not getting along. They sit down and we start to play. There's a group of us, and I have noticed it on many occasions. Halfway through the play, they start kissing each other. It's just there. I know it's just them demonstrating their affect for each other, how they feel about each other, forgiving each other during the play. But unfortunately, because they don't really understand what's going on there, they take off. To do what, I don't know. But most cases, they take off, right? So they didn't stay long enough to integrate what was actually happening. So there's a lot of times people can play this game and they can walk away and think, no, that was a great time. It's a lot of fun. But what was it? It's not until they can understand, they can play with understanding, that it begins to really make a difference. Now, with children, you don't need to tell them. When you get into the intuitive side of the game, like you become the cat, or you just allow yourself to go and touch, or you can listen to what you feel and go where you feel if you've got a blindfold on. And you don't need to tell the kids that. They know. Once they experience that, they know. So, yeah. I have the passion for it because I've seen what it can do, both individually and collectively. And I'm aware of the difference that this could make for humanity. One of the problems we have, and one person in particular, but there's a number of them that I work with, was a scientist. Amazingly intelligent person. Really mind-blowing. But emotionally dumb. Really, she had no idea in relationships and all that sort of stuff. And one of the things that concerns me is that we have many brilliant people in the world, right? They're creating, new technologies, new advances. And how are these technologies and advances being used? Are they being used appropriately? Are they being sold off? Are they being manipulated? Yes, they are. They are, right? More and more so, that's changing. But if we could, this is for people that have problems and people who don't have problems. It can make it better for all of us. The knowledge that we gain from this, and it does, when you get into that, I'll go back to the experience of this workshop that I spoke about earlier on. My son, on the Sunday morning, one of the activities, and this is just learning to articulate yourself, one of the activities was for him to look at somebody and recognize whatever it is he felt when he looked at that person, then articulate it appropriately. He took us all through quite an amazing experience as he did that, and was very quiet, very, very gentle. And then I said, well, anybody else like to have a go at that? It's been part of one of the activities. Annette, Trevor's partner, said, yeah, she would like to. And it was almost like it wasn't her speaking. It was very powerful, and she connected deeply with every one of us, which set the scene for quite a remarkable afternoon. But before I go into the afternoon, on the evening before, we were playing blind man's bluff. When you put a blindfold on, and if you're ready, you have to catch everybody. Now, when you first put that blindfold on, it's a bit difficult because you think you're obviously not used to having one of your senses removed. But once you relax into it and realise it's a game, and you've got people looking after your safety, because that is the priority, your other senses start to switch on. And it goes from just hearing noises around you to kind of feeling like you know where somebody is. And you might just follow that feeling, and actually you find that 9 times out of 10, you're right. And so the more that you tune into that feeling, the more powerful the whole game becomes. And then if you're one of the ones that have been tracked by this person with a blindfold on, see, my bones don't creak. At 57 years of age, they used to creak. But now after Blind Man's Buff, they don't. Right? You can learn to move around without disturbing the energy. You can use every resource you've got to protect yourself. Put a shield around yourself. So the person that has the blindfold on has to totally let go. Be the child.
So even if you're the person with the blindfold, or whether you're one of the other people participating in the game, either way there is a skill to develop.
Many skills to develop.
Okay.
Yes. And self-discipline is one of the biggest ones. With the game, if you run in Blind Man's Buff, which everybody wants to, you're out. You accept responsibility, and it helps you learn to relax. Relax. It's not the speed that's going to help you. It's how you use your body. But anyway, my son started playing this when he was 4. 26 now. I was 25 then. Just turned 26. He's had a lot of practice in this game. All of my 3 children, coming from the background I came up, one is a chartered accountant, the other one's an electrical engineer, and the other one's a diesel mechanic. They're all doing what they want to do. When my son went into education, into engineering, he went into his head. So he didn't play the game for about 5 years. I think he played once. He came to do this workshop to get out of his head. So on the Saturday we played, and on the Saturday night, like he was just like one of us and we were good. But on the Saturday night, we had this other young guy, his name was Hamish, when he first started playing the game, he had dreadlocks, he was a cool dude, out of work, no responsibility, a bum basically. And now he's one of the most articulate, intelligent people that I know. And he and my son are both going to be leaders for Wizzdom. But anyway, we're down to playing Blind Man's Buff, and we're all out. Trevor was there, and he had his camera running for most of the workshop, so we picked up most of the things. But at this stage, it was late at night, and Hamish had the blindfold on. My son was without the blindfold on. It was late at night, and Trevor had turned off his camera. Mine was set up on a tripod a little bit further back from the play area. And anyway, I see my son, and we were just sitting there casually watching, because it's a process that everybody goes through once you're out. You stay focused on what's going on. Not because you have to, because it's like the game. They're still in it, but they're not physically, but it's like you're watching a game of sport. Anyway, my son decided that I just saw him, he was using his hands like this, and he was pushing. And I noticed that as Hamish would come towards him, and Hamish is very intuitive, wherever my son went like this, I'm lifting my hands because it was down by his hips, went like this, Hamish went in that direction. And after a while, we realized that my son was making Hamish dance with his will. And so, I thought, oh, gee, and I went back to my camera, and I didn't want to disturb anything, because as soon as ego comes in, that stops, right? So I switched on my camera, and I got part of it. And then Trevor and this girl, Rebecca, also got their cameras out, because they started to see it to try and get it. But by the time we all got it out with the noise, it wasn't much noise, but a little bit of disturbance, it kind of stopped. It was a remarkable thing to see. And then, I just said, if you could just
The force is strong with this one. It's what comes to mind.
Well, it is. It is. And we actually got them to do it again, right? And we said, if you can just stay in the same space you're in at the moment and just see if you can repeat that. Because as soon as you say to someone, oh, you're doing really great, ego comes in, right? And you don't get the same result or outcome. But they managed to stay in that space, and we recorded. And it's not on our site yet, but once we get the thing together properly, we'll show him directing Hamish with his energy. As it turned out, and I knew intuitively, what Russell was using wasn't his energy, it was his will. And I said to Russell that you realize that everything that we do in the game is fun and it's exciting, but everything has a purpose. It's not just a toy. Right? So now that you can use your will to create whatever you want, and you use it in exactly the same way. And he is. We're going through an enormous learning process since doing the workshop. And the very first thing not the very first, his latest thing that he said to me is he wants to get Hamish and the two of them start running wellness workshops for young people. Now, that was his first stepping out, saying, now I want to be involved. And he's in a high-paying job now. So that's a wonderful thing for me. But the highlight of the weekend has only just become apparent to myself and Trevor and a few of us, is that the significance of what actually happened is at the end of the workshop, I split them up into two groups, and I asked them to do some sort of a creative expression as to what they felt that the weekend workshop meant. Now, at the time, there was a big house and they were in two separate areas. So each group could not see what the other, and they all have assured me that they did not see what the other group was doing. So when it came time to do the presentation, unfortunately, my camera stopped and Trevor didn't have his set up. So we don't have this recorded. But the first group, when it came time to do the presentation, they stood on a circle and they were blindfolded and they were facing out. What they did is they turned and they faced each other. They took their blindfolds off and they acknowledged each other. And then they went into the middle of the circle and they did a little creative thing together. As they were doing it, the first group said, hang on, they've copied us. So the first group the second group got up and did it. They did exactly the same thing. I mean, exactly the same thing. Blindfold, facing out, turn in, acknowledge each other. A week later, I was talking to Trevor about us as spiritual beings, us connecting as one. I said, before we connect as one, we have to recognize and acknowledge each other. And then it occurred to us that that's what happened at the workshop. They acknowledged each other as spiritual beings, as a oneness. So what we had is a beautiful demonstration of oneness in action.
I just wanted to make a comment in regards to what you said a minute ago about will. Because using your will appropriately is very, very important. And I guess that's what this game is teaching people, because will over others is not appropriate, but will over yourself, will over your own abilities, that's appropriate. Because the misuse of will over others is part of the mess we're in.
That's exactly right. That's a highly appropriate comment, right? In the fact that there's been some people that have had an awareness of all these abilities, these natural abilities within us, and they have been inappropriately using their will to manipulate us. I believe manipulate may be a bit of a harsh word, but it's kind of what I feel.
No, I don't think it's a harsh word at all.
You know, there's a purpose for everything. There really is, right? And as far as I'm concerned, they've done their job, and now we do our job, and we wake up. We take responsibility for ourselves. Before we can wake up, we need to, in order for us to wake up, I believe, and I can prove, this game can prove, that we need to awaken these abilities. The power of these abilities comes when they begin to synergize with each other. And it's the synergy of these abilities, that's where the wisdom is. And it's with wisdom, practically applied with common sense, that we can turn everything, all the problems that we've created in the world, we can turn them around. And together, I believe that we can create an amazing world. I really do. That's why I've got more hope for humanity now than I've ever had. I can see the things that have happened in the past are not maybe that great for humanity. There's a good learning experience. Maybe we've been through, maybe we had to go through this to see how limited we can become. Because God, we're good at it. But we're also good at the other end of the spectrum. And I think it's about time we all started to demonstrate that and work with each other. I've seen what's been happening with the Sydney Alliance. Really impressed with that, and they are at a level they're doing it. And I believe that I'd like to get Wizzdom involved with structures like that, or organisations or movements like that, to help them further develop their abilities, so that they can. And when they develop these abilities, they'll just go and fix all the problems. They'll do it. We will do it.
What is it going to take to get Wizzdom out into the marketplace? You've
Well,
had obstacles, I know. You need assistance. What's it going to take?
Well, at the moment, I'd like to have someone the likes of Andrew Forrest or someone along those lines to come in and say, okay, we can see what you're doing, we'll support what you're doing, and fund us, right? To produce initially a volume of games, maybe a couple of thousand games, so that we can go out and do some more studies on the best way to present the package, right? So that we can develop, because the game book. It's basically just a simple game book with 32 games in it. This is the original family category, but then there's a game of 32 for children's birthday parties, for dinner parties, for relationship couples, for intimate games, for outdoor activities at picnics and all that sort of stuff. So, and there's doing the different types of workshops for corporate training, so help to develop all of those packages, and then so that we can form a strategy to get it out there to the world, to give every person the opportunity, at one way or another, to experience the game. And as little as maybe 120,000 would give us an enormous start. But if we had somebody with really the funds, we can make it happen very quickly. So,
well, this is an official call out to anybody who feels that they can support Len and this game, getting it out there in the marketplace, or if they have access to organisations or funding programs or anything like that you can put forward. This is a tool that we could all use, all ages, obviously, and all aspects of. Oh, I'm so touched by what you're talking about, because we're talking about, especially right now, right here, right now, it's such a vulnerable time.
It's
it's the time. It's the perfect time for something like this.
Yes, it is. And the value, just the sense of satisfaction a parent could have by helping their children develop the abilities they need to excel in life, to even cope with life's challenges. The difference that this would make to our overall, the difference it does make to our overall health. I've decided now, recently, I'm going to start to do public speaking. So I decided I went into a cave after returning from this experience, and it really hurt. I put on 30 kilos. Recently, I've decided that I don't want that weight anymore, and I've dropped 28 of it.
Mm-hmm. Well done.
It's a really special program, but I've dropped 28 of it. I'm now preparing myself to get out there because I feel it's time, and I want to offer it to families, in particular, teachers. Enjoy the benefits of sharing this experience with your children, with the students of any age. And employers create better, safer work environments, more productive, easily. So, I want to get it out there. Thank you.
We're doing just that. Yeah. So thank you very much for your time, Len.
I really appreciate the opportunity, and if anyone is interested, I'd appreciate hearing from them.
I will put all of your details in the description for where they can get in touch with you and the website that they can go and have a look at.
Do you want me to say it?
You can say it too if you like, yep.
The website is www.thewizzdom, or my email address is len@thewizdomclub.com. And I'd welcome hearing from anybody. Not just for money. If you see an interest in this in your organisation, in your community, and because there is a community project with this as well. where we can take a whole community, like I was going to do at Yarrabah. I know how to do it with any community or town. So.
The Cultural Olympics. I love that idea.
Well, it probably won't be called the Cultural Olympics, but something similar to that. Yes. Yes.
Wonderful. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks again.